Hello, and welcome to the Introverted Manager. You might have heard that incremental refresh is not possible on non-folding data sources and only works with databases. However, I'm here today to prove it wrong, and I will show you how to make it work. So you can see here I have few files stored in SharePoint, Excel files. Typical scenario. Let me show you what's inside the files. It's quite simple for the sake of example. Just two fields, date and the amount. And there are files which are spanning 2024 and 2025. Now, first and foremost, what you will need to do already is to have some sort of date indication in your file name. I will explain why at a later point, even though SharePoint provides you with some fields which can be used for this, like date created, date modified. You don't want to rely on those, and it's better to store date of the file in its name. I usually use this format: year, months, and date, if needed. Let's switch to Power BI and see how you can set it up there. So here's my Power BI. I'll go to Power Query. I already have two examples set up, albeit I will do setup from scratch so you can see the whole process. First thing that you can do is make those two parameters, RangeStart, RangeEnd. Those are reserved names for parameters associated with incremental refresh. So you have to follow this naming scheme. And it should be date time. Here, for your convenience, specify some dates which have files, because later we will be using them for filtering, and though the dates that you specify here will be the dates which you will see in Power BI Desktop. You will not be able to see how incremental refresh works in Power BI Desktop. It only starts working in Power BI Service. Okay, so once you created parameters here, range start, specify date time format, specify the date and time, then created range end parameter. As the next step, let's ingest our files from SharePoint. So, as I promised, I will start from scratch. And let's go here, folder, SharePoint folder, site URL. Okay, let me switch and get that. Okay, I will press transform data because, and you will see what I will be doing, I would like to switch from SharePoint files function to contents. Reason being is that SharePoint.Contents is way faster than the standard one. So I usually use .contents. I'll link video about this function from with Hopkins, which you can watch to see comparisons of the performance. It has a bit different structure, but no worries, it's still quite simple. All you have to do, just replace it with .contents, press done, you will see that something changed, and from here we have to navigate to our folder. So I will navigate to Shared Documents, Incremental Refresh, and here are all of my files. Okay. Now, for the sake of tidiness, remove other columns. Now we have to somehow extract dates from our file names, right? For this, it's a simple case. The easiest solution would be to use column from examples. Just select your name column from selection and let's see, 2024-08. And it should pick it up automatically because we're using simple, standardized date format. As you can see here, yes, it did pick it up correctly. Maybe let's change column name to something more telling, file date, and let's change it to date type. So it's converted to date. Okay. Now we have to use those RangeStart, RangeEnd parameters that we created earlier. Let's open date filters. Let's navigate to in between, switch to advanced. Here, okay, file date, make sure that it's is after or equal to, and here for now specify just some random dates. I'll explain why. Then for second condition, make sure it's is before, not is before and equal to, but just is before. And again, specify some date. Press OK. Okay, it will filter down, and we will have to change this condition slightly. So as you can see here, there is currently specific dates. We'll change that to parameters. Range start and range end. Okay. However, our column is date column. Meanwhile, our parameters are date time. Therefore, what we need to do here is extract the date from those parameters. Therefore, I will add date from function here. And here, before range end and before range start. Date from. Okay, let's confirm that everything is all right. As you can see here, it picked up dates from range start, range end. Let's check. January, April, and January, February, March. And because we have before condition, April is not included. So far so good. Okay, let's rename it for clarity. Okay. And let's move this here. Let's now transform the files themselves. So let's press on the content. Power BI will do its magic. Another thing to make sure is that in all of the files, the sheet that you will be extracting data from is named the same way. In my case, it's sheet 1, default naming in all of the files. In your case, it could be something else. Just make sure it's the same. You will save yourself some troubles. Okay, so as you can see here, it created transformation functions. Let's navigate to transform sample file. And here we need to use first row as headers. Okay. Let's navigate back. And we see those 3 files that were extracted based on our filters here, range start, range end. Another thing that I will do, and I will explain later what for, here we have remove other columns. Let's press the gear icon and let's add date modified back. Okay. And once it's expanded, we have 3 columns. We can load it into the model. Let's press close and apply. It has loaded. And now we can actually set up incremental refresh policy. Okay. So right-click on your newly created table, go to incremental refresh. you will see this message, unable to confirm if mQuery can be folded. Indeed, it's not database, it cannot confirm that. However, it will still work, so you can just ignore this message. Make sure your table is selected here. If you have multiple, let's enable it. Here, you have to decide at which point to start archiving your data from the data set. I'll put 1 year here. And how many months to incrementally refresh. Could be just last month, could be 2, could be 3, however many you want. Let me do last 2 and months. Okay. What you can do additionally to optimize it a bit is detect data changes and select here that date modified column that will left. What it will do is that whenever someone accesses the file or changes the file on the SharePoint, it will update date modified date. Therefore, if report is refreshed and it sees that date modified changed, it will refresh those files within last 2 months. If, however, only 1 out of 2 files has been changed, it will not spend time checking the other one and will only refresh the one that has been changed. It will save you a bit of time during refresh. So date modified, and here you have to decide if you want to also include current months here or only finished months. If I turn it on, it means that since now is April, it will not include April file into dataset. Otherwise, if I deselect it or leave it deselected by default, April file will be included into dataset and refresh. Okay, click apply. And again, you will not see any changes here in Power BI Desktop. For you to actually see the changes, you have to publish it to Power BI service, run refresh, and then you will see data there. So allow me to add another table here. So we see results from this one. And let's switch date to this one and amount to this one. Okay. Let me rename it incremental refresh. And let me publish it to Power BI service, and we will go to Power BI service to check how it worked. Currently, there are only 3 months displayed in the table. Therefore, once it's refreshed, we expect to see all of the data. Let me navigate to Power BI service. You have to run first refresh manually, and on first refresh, after setting up incremental refresh, it will be full refresh. All the consequent refreshes after first one will be incremental. So on the first one, it will take longer. The consequent refreshes will take less time. Let's press refresh. Okay, took a few seconds. You can see here, actually 22 seconds to be precise. And let's open the report and see whether table contains all of the data. Okay, yes, as you can see here, it starts on January 2024 and it ends on April 2025. It actually ingested all of the files. Now, let's check that incremental refresh actually works. We'll make 2 changes. One change, which is before incremental period. So currently, we told it to refresh only the last 2 months. Therefore, let's change January 2024 to something else. Let's change it to something that will be visible. Okay. Ideally, once I refresh report, it should not show this number, because once more, first refresh is full refresh. After that, it refreshes only last 2 months. Therefore, if you would like to refresh all of the historical data, you either need to reset up incremental refresh policy so it again runs whole full refresh, or there are other tools which can help with that. However, today I will not be talking about that. And let's change April 2025 to see that our data actually refreshed incrementally. So currently we have this 4444. Let's change it to 777777. Okay. So those two files changed. Let's refresh here. As you can see here, modified has been updated for January 2024 and here as well for April. And let's run refresh once more. Let me navigate here. So there are two things that we expect. First, that refresh will take way less, just one file to ingest, and that January will not change, but April will change. Okay, already refreshed. Let's see how long it took. It took 12 seconds. Okay, a bit of an improvement. Let's navigate to report. And January, as we can see, did not change as expected. And if we scroll down to April, it changed to 777 as expected and as it should be. So this is how to set it up. However, one more thing that I want to show you is that there could be issues that you will encounter when you're setting up your policy. Namely, let me show you how it might look like. There weren't enough elements in the enumeration to complete the operation. This happens specifically when it tries to incrementally refresh some period where you don't have any files. Let me show you an example. Currently, their while period is 1 year. The whole period is still covered by all of the files that I have here. However, if I change it to 2 years, it will try to go back in time further. If it goes into 2023, there are no files there. And it fails because of that when it tries to look so far back. So you have two options. One option is to specify archival period and make sure that it doesn't go as far back in time when you set up incremental refresh policy, or I have alternative technical solution for this. It follows more or less the same steps until here. I will need to change a few things. First, I will need to check if table is empty. So once incremental refresh will be running through different periods, through different months, I will be checking, is this table currently empty? If it's yes, return true. If it's not, return false. So for example, currently, let me close it for a second, currently is empty returns false because I have 3 files there displayed. However, if it goes to 2023, it will be true. It is empty. Now, here I also have getEmptyResults table function, okay, which returns certain columns. It's a structure similar to what I have here by default when everything goes well. So when everything goes well, I'm getting this structure. And in my code or in my function here, I'm also returning this same structure. file name, extension, date accessed, date modified, date created, file date, date amount. So last two come from the file. These ones are created before data is extracted from files. This function returns table, empty table, but with this structure. And then basically it's a simple if statement. If result is empty, return that fake empty table. Otherwise, proceed transforming Excel files as is, the same way as before. That way, it will not fail. And that's all for today. Subscribe and see you in the next one.